What happens when a young spiritual seeker, driven by a profound quest for enlightenment, leads his peers to a sacred site and experiences a powerful mystical realization? Join us as we uncover the transformative journey of Narendra, whose spiritual fervor and intense experiences reshape his understanding of divinity. Welcome back to our series on Swami Vivekananda. In this episode, we explore how Narendra, under the intellectual guidance of Sri Ramakrishna, turned the Kashipur garden house into a vibrant hub of spiritual and philosophical inquiry. Witness his profound pilgrimage to Bodh Gaya, the site of Buddha's enlightenment, and the deep spiritual experiences that followed. Discover how these events contributed to his evolution and his crucial role in the future of the Ramakrishna order. Under the intellectual leadership of Narendranath, the Kashipur garden house became a miniature university. During the few moments leisure snatched from nursing and meditation, Narendra would discuss with his brother disciples religions and philosophies, both Eastern and Western. Along with the teachings of Shankara, Krishna, and Chaitanya, those of Buddha and Christ were searchingly examined. Narendra had a special affection for Buddha, and one day suddenly felt a strong desire to visit Bodh Gaya, where the great prophet had attained enlightenment. With Kali and Tarak, two of the brother disciples, he left, unknown to the others, for that sacred place and meditated for long hours under the sacred bo tree. Once, while thus absorbed, he was overwhelmed with emotion and, weeping profusely, embraced Tarak. Explaining the incident, he said afterwards that during the meditation he keenly felt the presence of Buddha and saw vividly how the history of India had been changed by his noble teachings. Pondering all this, he could not control his emotion. Back in Kashipur, Narendra described enthusiastically to the master and the brother disciples of Buddha's life experiences and teachings. Sri Ramakrishna, in turn, related some of his own experiences. Narendra had to admit that the master, after the attainment of the highest spiritual realization, had of his own will kept his mind on the phenomenal plane. He further understood that a coin, however valuable, which belonged to an older period of history, could not be used as currency at a later date. God assumes different forms in different ages to serve the special needs of the time. Narendra practiced spiritual disciplines with unabating intensity. Sometimes he felt an awakening of a spiritual power that he could transmit to others. One night in March 1886, he asked his brother disciple Kali to touch his right knee and then entered into deep meditation. Kali's hand began to tremble. He felt a kind of electric shock. Afterwards, Narendra was rebuked by the master for frittering away spiritual powers before accumulating them in sufficient measure. He was further told that he had injured Kali's spiritual growth, which had been following the path of dualistic devotion, by forcing upon the latter some of his own non-dualistic ideas. The master added, however, that the damage was not serious. Narendra had had enough of visions and manifestations of spiritual powers, and he now wearied of them. His mind longed for the highest experience of non-dualistic Vedanta, the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, in which the names and forms of the phenomenal world disappear and the aspirant realizes total non-difference between the individual. Soul, the universe, and Brahman, or the Absolute. He told Sri Ramakrishna about it, but the master remained silent. And yet one evening the experience came to him quite unexpectedly. He was absorbed in his usual meditation when he suddenly felt as if a lamp were burning at the back of his head. The light glowed more and more intensely and finally burst. Narendra was overwhelmed by that light and fell unconscious. After some time, as he began to regain his normal mood, he could feel only his head and not the rest of his body. In an agitated voice he said to Gopal, a brother disciple who was meditating in the same room, "Where is my body?" Gopal answered, "Why, Narain, it is there, don't you feel it?" Gopal was afraid that Narendra was dying and ran to Sri Ramakrishna's room. He found the master in a calm but serious mood, evidently aware of what had happened in the room downstairs. After listening to Gopal, the master said, Let him stay in that state for a while. He has teased me long enough for it." For some time, Narendra remained unconscious. When he regained his normal state of mind, he was bathed in an ineffable peace. As he entered Sri Ramakrishna's room, the latter said, "Now the mother has shown you everything. But this realization, like the jewel locked in a box, will be hidden away from you and kept in my custody. I will keep the key with me. Only after you have fulfilled your mission on this earth will the box be unlocked, and you will know everything as you have known now." The experience of this kind of samadhi usually has a most devastating effect upon the body. Incarnations and special messengers of God alone can survive its impact. By way of advice, Sri Ramakrishna asked Narain to use great discrimination about his food and companions, only accepting the purest. Later, the master said to the other disciples, "Narendra will give up his body of his own will. When he realizes his true nature, he will refuse to stay on this earth. Very soon he will shake the world by his intellectual and spiritual powers. I have prayed to the Divine Mother to keep away from him the knowledge of the Absolute and cover his eyes with a veil of Maya. There is much work to be done by him, but the veil I see is so thin that may be rent at any time." Sri Ramakrishna, the avatar of the modern age, was too gentle and tender to labor himself for humanity's welfare. He needed some sturdy souls to carry on his work. Narendra was foremost among those around him. Therefore, Sri Ramakrishna did not want him to remain immersed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi before his task in this world was finished. The disciples sadly watched the gradual wasting away of Sri Ramakrishna's physical frame. His body became a mere skeleton covered with skin. The suffering was intense. But he devoted his remaining energies to the training of the disciples, especially Narendra. He had been relieved of his worries about Narendra, for the disciple now admitted the divinity of Kali, whose will controls all things in the universe. Narain said later on, "From the time he gave me over to the Divine Mother, he retained the vigor of his body only for 6 months. The rest of the time, and that was 2 long years, he suffered." In our next episode, we will witness the profound culmination of Sri Ramakrishna's earthly journey and the powerful transmission of his spiritual legacy to Narendra. Explore the dramatic final moments of the Master's life, his declaration of divine identity, and the mystical experiences that followed his passing. Join us as we uncover how these events shaped Narendra's destiny and the future of the Ramakrishna order. Thank you for listening till the end. Please subscribe, turn on the notifications, like, comment, and share with your friends. This will help more listeners to discover our channel and content.